Good evening, gents. How are we doing?
Doing
Is
well,
everybody
thank
all
you.
right?
Feeling good.
All
Feeling
good,
like a
sir.
winner.
What's that?
Feeling like a winner.
And what would that be?
You know?
Just all right. Let's not get into that.
Probably got something to do with your title, just so people understand what's going on.
And the
with
answer to
comment.
that title is yes.
It does matter. Of course it does. Spurs all the way
Yeah.
through. Anyway,
Yeah.
moving on.
Moving on. Why not? All right, guys. So we're going to continue with our theme of trying to unpack and have some nice discourse around everyday dilemmas. All right. So I've got another one for you. Hopefully, it's gonna. I was going to say tickle your fancy, but that'd be probably not appropriate. But hopefully, that will kind of open up some really insightful conversation. All right. So normal rules apply. I will read the dilemma out, and then I will throw it open for people to give their comments and thoughts and ideas and so on and so forth. All right. So if you don't mind, I'm going to crack on and read the first dilemma. Right, which reads: a popular influencer called Jordan has built a reputation as a vocal advocate for social justice, diversity, and inclusion. Recently, however, someone unearthed racist tweets and offensive memes Jordan posted over a decade ago when he was 17 years old. Long time ago for some of us. Anyway, the content is deeply hurtful and includes racial slurs and mockery of Black culture. Jordan immediately apologized publicly, acknowledging the pain the words had caused. He claims that he's grown and learned and has committed the last 10 years of his life to anti-racism work, including volunteering, donating to equality causes, and mentoring youth from underrepresented backgrounds. Some people accept the apology and believe in Jordan's growth. Others say no amount of change can erase the harm done, especially when the apology came only after the comments were exposed. So this is the question that I'm going to pose to you guys. Should someone who once engaged in racist behavior but has since changed and atoned be forgiven and allowed to remain a leader in the fight against racism? Or does true justice mean for Jordan to, in this case, step aside no matter how much they're grown, or he's grown, I should say? So something that happened over a decade ago when he was 17, it happens, particularly in this area of social media, puts out some tweets that weren't necessarily, politically correct, has gone on to show some atonement and growth by doing lots of advocacy work, particularly in the fight against racial inequality. But nevertheless, it happened. Do you know what I mean? Should someone who's done something many years ago be allowed to atone and get on with the rest of their life and continue their career? That's the question. Don't know, shout at once. Right, so let's go for it. Do you know what I mean? Let's see what we think. Do you know what I mean? Because these things, to be honest, happen quite a lot. Do you know what I mean? And once something's in the public domain, it's there. Once that train leaves the platform, very difficult to get that train back again. So, who's gonna dive in first? Because this is a tricky one, isn't it?
I'll do it this time.
Thank you, Anthony.
I personally think let it go.
Let it go?
What you've done in the past is what you've done in the past. I mean, I can turn around and think things that I said when I was 16, 17, when I was in school or whatever. If I was to have a time machine and bring it back, I probably wouldn't even get a job, right? Because I was in adolescence. I was stupid. I was foolish. I was, mentally I hadn't grown maturity. As I got into my late teens and I started to understand a little bit more about human connectivity, what is harmful, what is hurtful, and emotions. As I grew, then I realized, whoa, some of those things I had when I was young, they were stupid. That was me being foolish. I'm not the same person that I am then, right? And I can honestly say a lot of people when they were teenagers, if you can compare to them how they're adults now, they're probably bus rides away, right? Yeah, you do have to be careful what you say, because we are living in a social media world right now. And something that I'm going to do on my little thing is the fact that this is like Gen Z is the first generation where literally your whole life is documented online. What you do, what you say, what you go, you know, emotions. People are now asking, the next generation asking, when we're talking about ChatGPT, about dilemmas, emotional problems. Rather than going to the parents, they'd rather go and ask AI, right? So this is the kind of world that we're living in now. So in a way, yeah, you need to be accountable. But if somebody's actually changed their lives and actually doing things that probably some people wouldn't even think of doing, you know, it still takes a lot to do that, what they're doing. And yeah, I think if they're really, really changed, they change. We've got to understand that. But then some people don't want to. If you've got your agenda, then you won't. Whatever you said is done. But
you mean some people don't want people to change?
No, some people just don't believe you can change.
Right. Okay.
And I can believe. I mean, to go into something, it's like, you know, somebody had an affair or something like that. So once you've done it, you're always going to do it. You know, that whole saying. But maybe that was one thing that you learned from and never ever do it again. You can't just throw a blanket over it. So the same thing with this. I personally think, yeah, if the person's really changed, and I'm sure Nick might even understand, you've got more understanding. If somebody's worked on themselves, thoroughly worked on themselves, so that they've now, their thoughts are now not cleansed, but they now corrected their way of thinking, it is definitely possible. But you know, that's kind of what I think.
Brilliant, Anthony. Thank you so much. Nick, what do you think?
It's a really, I agree with most of what Anthony said on this, and I think it's a shame. So the question is, you're asking me. If you're asking me directly, then absolutely, I believe this person can change. Only he knows whether it's a blag or not, because part of the dilemma was, all this has come out once the tweets were found, right?
And now we're going to pick on that.
So only he will know whether it's correct or not. The thing that I'm in fear for with people like this character, if he has genuinely changed, the unfortunate thing is he can genuinely change all he wants. Society itself, unfortunately, are the ones that decide, and that's the bit I'm appalled by. Now,
that's what I was agreeing with you, Nick.
You
totally
know,
do.
And it's that bit there. So if he's grown enough to say, you know what, to hell with what society is saying, I know that I've changed in my heart. I know that I've changed in my thinking. So my work continues. Great. Brilliant. So for me, yeah, I would like to believe that people can change. People, of course we can. You know, there's fundamentals that we will have that are going to be more difficult to change than others. But flipping hell, if I think, like Anthony said, if I think back to some of the nonsense I said back to some of the nonsense I said yesterday, what you still talk about with Arsenal, Mike. I mean, you're going to regret that in a few years.
And I believe everything I say.
I know. And in a few years, you'll go, yeah, I need some redemption. But right now, for me, with such a serious topic, however, if this guy has kind of put out some racist nonsense, and then 10 years he's worked on himself and he's genuinely realized, then for me, I hope society, the one bit that irks me here is the damage that was caused back in the day, because I believe in that dilemma. Some of that damage may be unrepairable. Some people may still be living off of what he said. What can be done with that? I don't have an answer for that. But yeah, I believe people can change. Yeah.
Brilliant. Skip, what do you think?
Yeah, you know, well, I grew up in a time where racism was, you know, there's levels to this. So, you know, standard racism is probably what you know, I experienced as a youngster and it's quite humorous. So that wouldn't really be a big issue. It just depends on what kind of level what we're talking about here. Is the racism that he was involved in as a 17-year-old, did it impact on other cultures in a detrimental way? And then maybe that might not be too forgiving. But we're talking about a 17-year-old that was probably got engaged in something. Maybe something was said, or wasn't necessarily close to, what we call as high-level racism. So, I mean, like Nick said, if we could go back to what all of us have said about people or cultures, or from whatever background, whether it be women or people that have come from the, LGBT background, or if we could go back to when we were kids, basically, there's things that we probably said that were probably not too good. So and we grow, and we get we learn, and we stop being ignorant and learn to get on with people. So I would say that something that a low level kind of racist comment or something like that can be quite easily forgiven. By the sounds of things, this person is doing a lot to bridge those kind of gaps and those issues. So that's commendable. So I wouldn't really, it wouldn't really be a big deal for me. I mean, like I said to you, if it was something that could really cause damage to other cultures, well, then that might not be so forgiven. So, but I'm talking about something that could actually affect people in a sense that on a large scale. If it was something, a comment that was said about a person, or a football team or a football player or something along those lines, as a 17-year-old, yes, 17 is still quite a mature age group. You know the difference, right? By the time you're 17.
I think so.
So I'm not saying it what I'm trying to say to you is, it depends on what was said and how it impacted people. That's the denominator here. That's going to make me think to myself, well, I'm going to point fingers there because that was a bit naughty. You actually affected a lot of people because of those comments. But if you just made a comment about this person who you had a fight with, when you was a kid, you say shit, you say stuff when you're aggravated or angry about an issue. So you gotta have some balance with this kind of stuff. And I like the fact that this person, by the sounds of things, is certainly not that way inclined. Certainly not. It doesn't sound like a racist person in the behaviors. It's not like he's an ex-clan member.
BNP or
well.
like some people in this group.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about Nick.
Thank you for clarifying that. I'm just thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Brown bag and that.
Dave Chappelle with that skit.
Yeah, we have to laugh.
We're gonna laugh,
Mike.
so,
after you've given your view, Mike, can I want to ask a question as well afterwards?
I've got a follow-up question as well. So we both, for me, I'd have to kind of forensically look at this in a little bit, really, and I suppose, and I do agree with what you said, Nick. The only person who will truly know whether they're completely, remorseful, I should say, and atone for what was said would be the person involved. Other than that, we've only got to have the hope and belief that is the case, really. But looking at it in a forensic way, what would have been better, however, if the way it was discovered. So, I mean, had said person, come forward and maybe, because you're 17, it was 10 years ago, you wouldn't have forgotten about it. Surely not. And if you're actually doing work in that arena, maybe it would have been better to maybe come forward with that information rather than that information to be brought to light, because people could have concerns about that is whether the legitimacy of whether that person's remorseful or not. So I would have to question that. I'm not going to lie. Had that not come to had that apology been made had he not been caught out?
Well,
and it's subjective. It is. And we'll probably never know. But I'm saying it. But from his perspective, if he is looking for that atonement in the public domain, it would be better. I would have thought.
I think. Sorry, Matt. I think this touches on part of the conversation that I think Anthony Winston and myself had on when we done the dilemma on the social media person who was saying that they was encouraging everyone to live clean, and they themselves weren't, and it touches on that. So I agree with what you said there, Mike. That if somebody comes out and says, "Look, this is my behavior. This is what I was doing 10 years ago."
Yeah,
I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. Whatever it is, and was honest about that. But here I'm changing. But now, my follow-up question: I've had this conversation with a few people, and this word, and I'm sitting here slightly on edge about this conversation.
All right.
Because there's a part of me that has studied this and have heard many people of color telling me I haven't really got a voice in this. In this arena here with you guys, I feel absolutely safe to talk about this. But there is an edginess towards it. So I want to put that out there. Right? So I am a bit nervous about talking about this. But here's the thing now. When you and I growing up, we've seen a lot of different things. I've heard comments made to you. You've heard comments made to me. As I've got older, I've tried to have a look at this word and what this word means. Now, there seems to be a level of power when it comes to the true definition of the word racism. There's a power dynamic within that. So you have to be somewhat powerful to be right. So when I've been called I grew up not knowing what color I was, red, grey, all sorts of colors I was told I was. So my bit here
within your societally or within your
so out and about where so my bit was oi grey boy, oi red boy, all of that kind of stuff, right? So my bit here is when I hear those guys say that, I never looked at them as racist. I looked at them as dickheads. Simple and plain. When I heard it coming your way, the same. You've got no power. What you've got is this vile, ignorant nonsense going on that you're spouting these words. But there's no power behind what you're saying. That's how I've always looked at it. Somebody in power, absolutely, if they can hire and fire off the base of colour, if they can hire and fire off the base of gender, sexuality, religious content, whatever it is, now they're in a position of power so they can implement said racism. And I'm not saying that this is fact, I'm asking your opinion. So I've always looked at it like that. So if somebody shouted this vile word to me or one of you guys, as far as I'm concerned, that's just an absolute, sorry for my language, arsehole. That's an absolute prick. That's not, he hasn't got the power to sit in that realm of you're racist because you can affect me or you can affect Mike, Winston, or Anthony. Does that make sense? The question I'm asking, does it make sense? I'm not saying that is the case. And what do you think to that? Do you think there's power within this, a power dynamic, or no? Or anybody can be?
What, within the word, you mean?
Yeah, can anybody be?
Yeah, of course I can.
Yeah?
Can anybody be racist, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, anyone can be racist. It's just different levels. Are you talking about prejudice and racism?
No, not prejudice and racism. No, I get that, Wim. But what I'm asking is, when I've studied this and I've spoken to people, especially people of colour that I've spoken to about it, what I've been told is there's a power dynamic here. So there's power within being a racist. And my bit here is, okay, well, that rules me out then. So even if I go spurting the most disgusting, vile words, what you're saying to me is I can't be because I don't have any power.
But we're talking about different scales of racism, isn't it?
Okay,
I
and
mean,
this is what I'm asking.
the person that doesn't necessarily have power to actually impress upon a whole nation of people, you may not have the same power, but you still have those the beginnings or the embryo of what that is, because it starts somewhere, right? So whether you have the powerful element or not, you still have some form of power, because you're using that as a tool to keep somebody else down. So you can still have influence, because
Nice.
you might be able to influence Tom, who lives next door, with your racist ideologies. But if you're at a different level, where you're, I don't know, let's say you're a governor of the United States, now you have probably lobbying power, and you can actually change things to discriminate against a race of people. So there's different levels to it, and that's why I kind of said to you, it depends on what this guy did. If what he was doing could impact on a greater minority, then I think that's levels. If you've said something that's, racist, when you've been angry, or you're just ignorant, I think there's room for maneuver of understandability in that area. But let's say, for instance, you're 17, and then you're at a company at 25 years old, and you have company policies that tell you that this type of behavior is wrong, and you're still carrying it out, then you've just made yourself liable, isn't it, for a backlash.
Yeah.
So whether you're ignorant or not, you put yourself in a position where before you may be just ignorant. Because I've said stuff when I've been ignorant.
Yeah.
Ignorant, I didn't really know better.
Just a throwaway ignorant remark, potentially.
So hear what you just said, Win. So for me, then what you're saying, tell me if I'm wrong as well, bro. But what you're saying is, so anyone, but levels, and I hear the levels. So anyone making any comment to do with a racial slur against another color of person, they're racist. Maybe on a lower level, but they're racist. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I mean, like I said, you could have done it in ignorance. It's still racist, isn't it?
Yeah.
If I pick up my knife and I don't really, I'm not right in the head and I stab someone, I still stabbed someone, didn't I? I still hurt somebody.
Cool.
So whether I did it in ignorance or if I did it because I wanted to, yeah, that's negotiable, but it's still commit the crime.
No, cool. That makes sense. Makes sense. Cool. That was my follow-on question, Mike. Did you say you had another one, or you got anything to agree or disagree or on that?
No, not on that. I was going to talk about is just the social media companies and the lack of responsibility that they have, or the greater powers that because at the end of the day, it's all money making stuff.
Just a quick question: do you have an opinion on what Nick just said? Or Anthony, do you have an opinion on it?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Anthony, do you have a?
Oh.
See, racism can come in so many different ways, and it can be from influences. It can be from situations that you've been put into, which have now influenced you to think a certain way. And it might not necessarily mean that you're out and out racist, but if you're having a continuous situation on a regular basis by a certain nationality or type of race of people, then you can be biased towards it, because you can turn around and say, here's the facts. This is happening continuously, and I've been affected, and maybe my neighborhoods have been affected by a certain group of people. And no matter what you say, I can go anywhere else and it's the same thing, right? So you can become racist because of your experiences. You could then still work with somebody. This is what used to happen when I used to be at work. I mean, I experienced ridiculous racism years ago in a company. When I was, I was dealing with complete ignorant people. And I had people there that I wouldn't say they were racist, but because you were in a company that was racist, it was very difficult for you to side with me because you would now be ostracized or you'd be looked at as an outcast, right?
Yeah.
So it would almost look as though you're a racist as well, but it wasn't. It's just the fact that you're in that environment. And if you've got a group of people that are constantly saying something and you're in amongst them, but in order for you to get on, you almost have to not side with them, but you almost have to find your allegiance, right? So I've experienced racism in that way, but the persons that I know that were in that situation, they were completely not racist. Absolutely not. I loved them to death. But then there were situations where I could see they couldn't, how do I say it? They couldn't align with me because I was a minority, right? And then going back to the thing about racism, we've all been racist in some way or another, right? It doesn't matter. It could be the fact that the people you go around with, I'm only going to go around with this people. Why? Because I fit in with them. In a way, that could be a form of racism. You're not giving another race another opportunity, right? So, racism can be all different forms. But I think what you said earlier was, if it's like you said, Winnie, if you've got the lines drawn and there's certain criteria that you should adhere to, but you continuously go against it, and you willingly go against it, then that's when you start questioning where that mental state is. Are you now racist? Because you're not actually thinking about the other person. You're just completely selfish. You don't care about if there's rules or anything that shouldn't be put in place. You don't care, right? Because you've just got your agenda. I don't give a damn. I don't like them. They're this color, whatever. I don't want that. That to me is damn racist. And comments I know people that have made comments and they're not racist. But at the spur of the moment, like you said, Nick, they say something and they look back and later on they think it might even played with them for months, thinking, why did I say that? I really shouldn't have said that. But you can't take that back. You've said it, it's done, right? But you can only say the next time that happens, I'm not going to be fast to say that. I'm going to really think about what I do, right? So I don't know if that encompasses literally all those things you've spoken about. So I think racist, it's very difficult to say someone's a racist. I don't talk about because I'm a person of color. I just think it's very difficult to say you're a racist because you don't know in their mind what they've experienced, or you don't really know what their mentality is. It might cause a situation that you might think they're racist, but they might not necessarily be.
I think the common denominator here is do you have an understanding of what it is? And once you do, you now can have the choice to make. You can make your choice on what you're going to do with that information.
Exactly.
And it's like I said, like if you work for a company, for instance, that has specific policies and procedures around racism and things of that nature, and you're educated on it, then you now have room to kind of make decisions for yourself if you should or should not be doing that. Because I've been in a workplace where I know people understand certain things and they still make off-key comments, and I'm like, is this cultural or are you being racist? Because I know because I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and there was always these programs on that kind of inciting that kind of negative conversation with one another, but it became kind of quite acceptable to have those kind of racist jokes between the cultures.
I've had somebody spit in my tea. I've had somebody call me, sorry, I'm going to say it, a black bastard. I've had literally saying, I want to make your life hell. I want you to leave. I want to get you sacked. I've had to come in and endure all that, right? And more.
Yeah.
But there was nothing I could do about it. I could have left, but I had a situation, I had a family or whatever. So that is out and out racism.
Oh yeah, oh gosh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you can't get no more. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
And I was called that by a supervisor.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Nothing new to me, man.
There you go. I don't even want to tell you the stories I had.
Yeah.
It's all to do with this one company, right? And if they're listening, I'm sorry. I'm a bigger guy now, and I can deal with myself. But at that time, I was a sort of a young guy and I didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I had out and out racism, the whole 9 yards, the attitude, the name. But that's what I was talking about. I actually had people in there that kind of were allies to me, but because the culture was a racist culture, for them to align with me, it would almost ostracize themselves and even put themselves in danger. If that makes sense.
Yeah. It does. Yeah, it does, because it was rife. That's why it was rife them times.
Penny.
But not now. Not as much now. Can't you see now?
Oh no.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mike?
Look, if we go back to the case in hand, with what was said when this person was 17, depends on what was said and depends on what the outcome. But for me, I do have a set of, if you like, a set of non-negotiables in terms of attitudes, behaviours, choice of words and things like that. I know you said it's difficult to prove if someone's racist, Anthony, but for me, I'm going to err on the side of caution. So if I observe certain words, attitudes, behaviours, and all the rest of it, that's enough for me. Do you know what I mean? Because there's certain language, certain words which particularly that will be the only word we hear before something else happens. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, language is one thing, but certain behaviours, it depends, because racism can be in different forms. It could be the fact of
there's levels to it, but there's certain obvious behaviours and certain languages that are used for me to know enough that this person's being racist, and I don't need to take that to court, and I don't need a jury.
And I think maybe because me and you have worked in the corporate world, right? Yeah, so we know exactly. I know exactly.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes it isn't always obvious as well. It can be very, very strategic, and it can be very, very, hidden. Let's say, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? But micro, exactly. Do you know what I mean? But do you know what I mean? But I think I do agree with what was said here. I think everybody's got the potential to kind of display that behaviour too. Do you know what I mean? And that's across the board, in my humble opinion. And that's across the board. But yeah, sticking with that, that's what I would say with this person. What was said was 17. It would have to depend what was said and the impact of what was said, and whether or not that person, for me, would have the opportunity to atone or not. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of factors there, because what could be said, that could have had a huge impact psychologically on people, on more than one person's life.
Yeah, I would say nowadays it's folly to get yourself involved in or make comments of that nature. You know what's going to happen now. It's not like when we grew up.
I know, but Nick, if it's something that's damaging and obvious, can I just simply atone?
What I'm saying to you is, at this time in 2025, whether you're 17 or 10, now it's so obvious that you're being racist, because it's the education on racism is massive now. So there's no room for it. You can ask a 10-year-old if someone's being racist or not. They'll ask a 6, 7-year-old, they'll tell you that. No, that's being racist.
What happens if someone's been brought up in a family then, Winnie, where the parents are racist, but the kids don't even know the difference between the two? They actually think it's
learned behaviour.
Not actually be a racist child. It's just the fact that their parents are feeding them this stuff, right? But when they go to school, they play with black kids. They play with. I'm not even saying a white person. It could be a black person who the parents are racist and saying, "Don't play with white kids. Don't play with Indian kids." Right? And that's what's in their family's been pumping into them. But when they go to school, their best friend is Indian. Their best friend's an English guy, a white kid. So in a way, you've got to look at it from that context as well. Sometimes the environment that a young person has been brought up, it's not necessary that they want to be. It's just that that's what they're used to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've seen people in white power that have changed considerably, because when they left home, that's all their parents were spouting out about. And they ended up marrying people of different races, joining different kind of factions, because they've now realised that wasn't the right way of thinking.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a good point.
Because it's, to a certain degree, it's kind of you've been brainwashed, isn't it? So you can't know the difference. when most children now, though, when they go to school, they're learning from a very young age about all of this stuff. So they're culturally quite sound by the time they're 10. They're quite integrated. Everyone's quite integrated,
I think it's
into culture.
it's a difficult one because again, it depends on what was done. If it was violent behaviour or things like that, and yet you go on to do all those other good things after, can you really? If you were a family member that was personally affected by that,
some things are not redeemable, are they?
That's what I'm saying.
If you was out with a backpack on and going to a concert or something like that, and you're trying to blow people up, then it doesn't matter what you do later on in life. That ain't going to change.
Yeah,
That's not going to change your status.
You can't unblow somebody up, can you?
You can't do that.
I was thinking that same thing. But what happens if somebody commits murder, right? When they're a kid,
That's what I mean.
they killed somebody, but they've now changed their life. They do all these good causes. They've come to Kilimanjaro. They've done everything in their life. But going back to what you said, Mike, the effect that they've had on that family who they've killed, right? They can never ever repay. They can never ever redeem that. That damage is done, and they're going to try to atone themselves for the rest of their life. That person is no longer living. They can't replace that again.
No.
Yes.
But I do understand what you're saying. If they've been brought up in that environment and they've been brainwashed, do you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, would consideration be given to that? Don't know.
There you go.
Consideration would be given to it, but it's just not atonable. Some things are just not atonable. It's just wrong.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you try to do, you're still going to be perceived as a wrong'un.
Yeah. I go back to what Nick said, and I think he kind of summed it up when he said, this person could have really changed their life. They could have literally have done things where we just turn around and think, oh my gosh, what you've done for our nationality, our race, nobody else has done, right? But in their heart, you don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. We just do not know, right? So I think it's not as straightforward. And social media, that's what I meant to say. The social media is not forgiving. I think that's what you said, Nick. The society is not as forgiving. You can be, your family could be, your organization around you, but once it's out there, society doesn't forgive that way. In fact, society likes to rake up things that are so minuscule and blow the whole thing up. But that's how it is.
100%. 100%.
Sorry, do you want to finalise on that, Nick? Because
No. Yeah, Nick, you got anything more?
Yeah, I'm not what I just said.
No. Again, I concur, but I'm sitting here, and it's, I suppose for many, because obviously you can hear how nervous I am even about talking about the subject, right? Because as you just said, Anthony, once this goes out there, here's a white guy talking about racism, right? So between us four grown adults here, we understand that we will have this conversation without any filter. So I'm trying not to have a filter, and yet there's a part of me sitting here quite nervous about this conversation, and I am one to try and learn about this. Now, I was told so when I was asking people of color, I don't even like, if I'm honest with you. So when I was asking people of
that's
color,
what I hate. You have to almost excuse yourself to say of color, and this is why I hate this whole environment where I think going to reverse. You talk about the power. The power can be reversed. I don't even like the fact that
100%. Yeah.
You should just feel comfortable right now.
Yeah.
No, but this is
I feel uncomfortable that you feel uncomfortable
Exactly.
talking about
I
it.
feel that way, right?
I get it.
Because I'm kind of like, what? So black people can't be racist?
Yeah,
Indian people can't
exactly.
be racist?
Okay, so pause. Let me
Is it only white people?
let me
You should be
come
unapologetic, Nick.
Come on, man.
Totally.
let me come back to that. So growing up in the 80s where we grew up, South London, etc., when I was asking elders and black people, what's this going on? Well, I was told, one of the things that really jumped out at me and it kind of took me back was, I was told the complete opposite of what you just said, Win. So you and I have had conversations about this for many years. We've had some serious conversations about it in jest as well, but some serious, deep conversations about this. But I remember being told black people can't be racist because there's no power in black people. Now, bear with me. You guys may disagree with that, and I believe that you disagree with that wholeheartedly. However, what I'm going to say to you is, as a white guy, that's a really difficult thing to argue against. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm then labeled something. And I'm labeled the R word the moment that I disagree with that. How can you say that? Which is why and I'm not going to turn the table. This is a really interesting topic. But this is why when the whole thing come out about the white privilege card, for me,
that's different.
No, it's when for me that's a racist term.
Exactly.
And I've said that that's different. Yeah, you're taking me back to the 80s, you bastard. So for me, it's such.
Remember that old Actors advert? All the cards just drop out.
So for me, my bit is, listen, I tried to sell my white privilege card at Cash Converters. They're not taking them. They ain't worth F all. But for me, my bit is, it's almost like saying, if you don't, it's almost like saying, I've always kind of come from the stance of, when me and you have had this conversation on a deep level before, where I've said to you, there is in no way, shape or form I would ever be rude enough to say, I understand what racism is like from a black person's perspective.
You just got a poor credit history. That's your problem.
Shut your face. But when it comes to the white privilege card, people are happy to brush that out there and say, oh, white people got privilege. Don't tell me about my experience as a white guy from somebody who isn't white. So it goes both ways. So for me, I would never have.
It's the same when a woman says, "This is what I think men should be thinking." And so, how can you know? You're not a man.
Exactly.
Same thing a man says about women.
Exactly.
Women think this, women think that. Well, you're not a woman.
Yeah.
You haven't got the hormones. I'm sorry. I know can be controversial, but I'm sorry. We're talking about logic here, and the same thing. What you're saying there, you're absolutely right.
And so for me, it's just that. I've just, when it comes to racism, I've always kind of taken a back seat and tried to listen, because there is no way, shape or form that I've experienced the racism from black folk the way that you guys have experienced it from white folk. Never. I'm never even going to try. I can't quantify that. But I've had more than my fair share. Now, my bit here is I'm here to learn. I'm here to listen. But also, I've got my experience, as you guys know, off camera. I'm talking about this all day with you guys, because it's all about learning and giving my side. But as you said, Anthony, perfectly, which is, once this is out there in the ether, what's going to be taken back from this? So it's a really fearful subject. But for me, I really take everybody. Listen, I've met white guys that are absolutely stunning human beings, and I've met white guys that are absolute arseholes I want nothing to do with.
Yeah.
And the same with black folk, same with Indian folk, same with Chinese folk. Doesn't matter. So for me, everything's an individual basis. Do you have a good heart? We spoke about this on a previous. Do you have a good heart? And are you up for justice? And justice for all. And if you are, you're my people. That's my clan. That's it.
Of course.
You know?
Of course.
Yeah.
I think everybody has the capability to be racist.
And as the white guy, I'm right.
Yeah, well, we know that.
We're used to that.
You're not right.
I'm editing that out.
I'm
you're all white.
That thing I sent you. You read it? Yeah.
Yeah. We've got to. But yeah, for me, I've got to say, Mike, again, another fascinating dilemma. But I've just put my 2 pence in, and I'm like I said, I'm sitting here sweating talking about this because I feel as if I don't have a right to. With you guys, of course I do. We spoke about this for years. I've got no issue with talking, but the fact that it's going out in the ether, it's a bit scary. It's a bit scary.
No, you've got nothing to be scared of, mate. You've not said anything.
So, can we just quickly, because there's been a great discussion, just quickly just go around, just quickly summarize, so we're just very clear on what we're all saying about this wonderful dilemma. So if somebody's done something previously 10, 15 years ago, my quick question is, well, particularly if it's a racist tweet or whatever, should they be forgiven, and should they be allowed to atone and get on with their life and pursue good work in the future? Anthony.
Simple. Action speaks louder than words.
Action speaks louder than words. Get that, Nick?
You know what? I kind of want to concur with that and just stick with that. Absolutely. If in their heart they know that they've changed, done.
Action speaks louder than words. Win?
Well, look, for me, if ignorance was involved, where when I say ignorance is there, if they didn't understand the implications of what they were doing, then there's always room for forgiveness. So my way of judging that situation, if you understand or you've been educated on a matter with regards to this, and then you go against it, then you should be judged upon it.
Absolutely. Agreed with you guys, really. Action does speak louder than words. However, also heart condition is a big thing for me, because we'll never know whether somebody has truth. Only that person knows. We've all agreed that. We don't know what's in the mindset, what's going on, between their ears. Only they know. However, with what was said and the implication of what was said, and the fact that they only came to light after it had been revealed, that is also something that if I was looking at this objectively, I would be putting that under my lens. Yeah, because only they know, but I also have the right to make a decision on what I know and what I think. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I would be looking at those factors before I make my opinion. Do you know what I mean? So, what happened? What was the implication of what happened? Who did it affect? And why now? Why has it come to light? And why didn't that person come forward? If they were truly remorseful and truly atoned for what they said, whatever that was, why are we only finding out about it now? And why are we only getting the apology now? Mm. So it wouldn't be just as simple for me. I would have to put this into a petri dish, get my microscope out.
You had to turn it, didn't they?
What's the petri?
Do you remember them little glass circles with Mr. Millet that you just put them germs and all that in there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Scientific conditions. For me to say, yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to lie and say that, because I'd have to reverse engineer it. I'd have to reverse engineer it and see what the implications of what was said and why we're hearing about it now.
Mm. Mm.
Okay.
I tell you what, I'd hate to be around his petri dish. I don't know what's in there.
Bloody hell.
Absolutely. So, guys, thank you very much. That's been a fantastic pod again. Do you know what I mean?
It's been brilliant.
Food for thought, I'd say. No?
Mm.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So, guys, until we meet next time, I'll see you all on the other side. So, peace and love.
Peace and love.